You know how every job has that one task you dread doing? Filing taxes, maybe?
Yeah.
Or that deep clean your car really needs.
Oh, yeah,
You
absolutely.
probably pay someone else to handle it, right?
Yeah.
Well, what if that task was murder? Okay, let's unpack this.
It's a jarring thought, definitely.
Today, we're taking a deep dive into Murder Incorporated. This was the infamous for-hire hit squad that basically professionalized contract killings for the American mob.
Yeah, it turned it into a system.
Our mission today is to figure out how this really ruthless group transformed mob violence from chaotic brawls into a cold, calculated business. What did that mean for the underworld? And, what kind of blueprint did they maybe leave behind?
It's a fascinating, if grim, subject.
We've pulled together info from true crime docs, historical accounts, lots of expert analyses on organized crime to bring you the most, compelling and often disturbing parts of this story.
And it really is a study in, unintended consequences, isn't it? You see this outsourcing idea everywhere now. Small businesses hire consultants. Governments use private contractors for all sorts of things.
Right.
But what's so, jarring here is seeing that same logic applied to systematic violence within the criminal world, all driven by what you could almost call a market demand for control and efficiency.
A demand born out of pure chaos, wasn't it? Specifically, that brutal Castellammarese War back in 1930, 1931. Can you sort of set the scene? What made it so bad?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, picture New York's underworld just tearing itself apart. This vicious turf war between Joe Masseria and Salvatore Maranzano. It was brutal. No holds barred.
It's chaos.
Hundreds killed. And not just gangsters, Innocent people caught in the crossfire. It was terrible for business, obviously. Drew way too much police attention. It was threatening to just dismantle the whole mafia structure they knew.
Right. So then comes Charles Lucky Luciano. He's often painted as this, criminal visionary. He saw this constant fighting was basically suicide for them.
Exactly. He realized perpetual war was just bad for the bottom line. His stroke of genius really was establishing the commission.
Okay. The commission.
Think of it like a criminal United Nations, a governing body, heads of the new five families, but also other major players, importantly, Jewish mobs, Irish, African-American, Polish groups were involved too.
So broader than just the Italians.
Much broader. The whole point was to mediate disputes, enforce treaties, keep the illicit money flowing more predictably. But like any government, it needed an executive branch. It needed a neutral third-party enforcement arm to handle problems without starting another huge, costly war.
And that's where the idea for Murder Incorporated really starts to form. Okay, so you need someone pretty specific to build that kind of thing. Who are the architects?
It really came down to two terrifying figures. Louis Lepke Buchalter, a very powerful Jewish mobster, he was tasked with assembling the outfit, overseeing it. But his chief lieutenant, the guy really running the show on the ground, was Albert Anastasia, the Lord High Executioner, they called him.
Wow.
Anastasia was already known for being incredibly brutal. His history alone tells you the level of ruthlessness they were looking for.
Yeah, his background sounds like it was almost an audition for this job, doesn't it?
It really does. He shows up in New York at 17, quickly makes a name for himself down on the waterfront racketeering. He actually got convicted of murder at 19, sentenced to death.
No way.
Yeah, but then, kind of miraculously, thanks supposedly to Luciano's influence, witnesses just vanished. Or they changed their stories for his retrial. He walked free.
Unbelievable.
And this kind of thing, witnesses disappearing, cases falling apart, it happened multiple times. It sent a clear signal. This is the kind of untouchable reputation the commission wanted for its new enforcement arm, chilling proof of the power behind them.
Okay, so they've got the leadership Lepke and the infamous Anastasia. They have the concept, this neutral enforcement squad. But who are the actual, foot soldiers, the guys willing to pull the trigger or wield the ice pick? Where did they find that kind of person?
Well, they found them in crews like the notorious Brownsville Boys from Brooklyn, guys led by Abe Kid Twist Reels. His crew included Martin Bugsy Goldstein, Harry Happy Mayone, Frank Dasher Abendando. These were amateurs.
Right. They already had a reputation.
A serious one for extreme violence.
Yeah.
Their takedown of the Shapiro brothers, for example, the details are gruesome, really gruesome, but it showed this level of efficiency and calculated brutality that absolutely got the Syndicate's attention. They were exactly what the commission needed. Ruthless, efficient, and they didn't blink.
And it's just wild to think that this huge, deadly operation was run out of a candy store. How did that even work?
It's one of the craziest details, isn't it? Their main hub was this totally unassuming 24-hour candy store, Midnight Rose, 779 Saratoga Avenue in Brownsville, Brooklyn, run by this seemingly harmless 60-year-old woman, Rosie Gold.
Just blended right in.
Totally. Outside, just another neighborhood shop. Inside, though, it was basically a labor exchange, a dispatch office. Hitmen would literally hang out by the payphones, waiting for calls, waiting for orders from the commission, which came down through Anastasia and Lepke.
So like a real corporate hierarchy.
Pretty much a strict chain of command, from the top bosses down to the killers on the street. It gave them operational control.
And compartmentalization was crucial, right? The idea that the driver didn't know the shooter who didn't know who ordered the hit.
Absolutely vital. It was all need to know. Getaway drivers, spotters, shooters, they only knew their specific piece of the puzzle. Rarely the whole plan, often not even the victim's name or why they were targeted.
What did that do for them? Like organizationally?
It was built for survival. If one guy got caught, he couldn't bring down the whole operation. Limited exposure, plausible deniability for the bosses. It protected the higher-ups. This kind of structure, minimizing what any one person knew, was a terrifying innovation for organized crime. Made them way more resilient than the old gangs. It was basically a blueprint for staying in business despite law enforcement.
So who are these guys?
Yeah.
The ones actually doing the killing. Give us a sense of the roster.
Oh, it was a real rogues gallery. Each one brought their own special kind of horror. You had Abe Kidd twist reels, like we mentioned, expert with the ice pick. Apparently, he could make deaths look like natural brain hemorrhages.
Chilling. That level of, like, forensic thinking.
Yeah, and he reportedly enjoyed torture, too. Then there was Harry Pittsburgh Phil Strauss, believed to have carried out maybe over 100 murders. He loved getting creative drowning, choking, setting bodies on fire. Apparently, he'd read the newspapers the next day to check out the reports on his work.
Wow. The ego.
Right. And the list goes on. Harry Happy Maywin, ironically nicknamed Happy because he was apparently miserable all the time, volunteered for everything. Frank Dasher, Abendando, good-looking guy, but a total monster, preferred melee weapons.
Like knives and stuff.
Yeah. Mendy Weiss was big in the drug trade, handled some really high-profile hits. Louis Capone, no relation to Al. Thankfully, he was almost like their HR manager, handing out the jobs. And Charles the Bug Workman, he liked to pick victims' pockets, make it look like a robbery gone bad.
There's a terrifying group of specialists.
Diverse and deadly, all united by just ruthless efficiency.
And this wasn't just, random violence. It was a job. They actually had a pretty good benefits package, didn't they? That really speaks to how professional it was.
Oh, absolutely. It was a career path. In a twisted way.
Right.
They got a $125 a week retainer salary that was serious money back then.
Yeah, decent wage.
Plus bonuses, anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 per hit. But it wasn't just the cash. They got family benefits. And crucially, mob-funded legal defense. The best lawyers and, judges who could be influenced.
So, full protection.
Exactly. This wasn't just hiring some thug off the street. It was an employment contract. That level of backing from the syndicate, guaranteeing money and protection, it cemented loyalty. It let them recruit the most effective, most brutal killers out there, turned contract killing into a viable, horrifying profession.
What's so striking is how they managed to just strip the emotion out of it. Murder became this, logistical problem to solve. That detachment plus the corporate structure, it made them incredibly efficient. And maybe paradoxically less likely to have those internal squabbles that wrecked earlier gangs. So beyond the benefits, what did this cold, calculated approach mean for the future of organized crime?
It laid down this terrifying blueprint for criminal longevity, really. Their operational precision was meticulous. They'd steal getaway cars weeks before a hit, have crash cars ready to block police if needed, swap license plates constantly, destroy weapons immediately after use. Every single detail was planned to minimize risk and guarantee success. It turned murder into this clinical, almost industrial process.
Not about rage, just execution.
Exactly. Flawless execution was the goal.
And the killing methods themselves, they often sent specific chilling messages, right? That ice pick through the ear or skull became their signature, didn't it?
Yeah.
Quick, silent.
Yeah.
With like a natural death sometimes.
That was a key one, yeah. But their brutality went way beyond that. They used .38 revolvers, ropes for strangling, knives, meat cleavers, even just bare hands. Sometimes fire, drowning, even burying people alive. The method often depended on the specific message they wanted the underworld to hear.
Yeah, those messages were grim. You mentioned snitches sometimes found with birds or rats stuffed in their mouths.
That's reported, yeah. Sexual transgressions might lead to castration, Witnesses who were about to talk, sometimes found with their eyes shot out or gouged out like a literal see no evil.
Horrifying.
And sometimes they'd leave bodies out in public. Famously, one victim was strapped to a slot machine. Just a brutal public warning. Don't cross the syndicate.
And then there was the whole making bodies disappear thing. Why do that?
Well, practical reasons first. No body, much harder to get a murder conviction, right?
Makes sense.
But it was also psychological warfare. It denied enemies a funeral, a place to mourn. And maybe cruelly, it often stopped families from collecting life insurance, which back then could take 7 years if someone was just missing. It was about total control, total disrespect, even after death.
So despite all this utter brutality, they maintained this bizarre code of neutrality, like nothing personal, it's just business.
Mm-hmm.
They often didn't even know the victim personally. And incredibly, they'd even kill members of the families who'd hired them previously if the commission ordered it for some other reason. How did that detachment make them even more dangerous?
That was the absolute core of their professionalism, you know. Their main job, ironically, was to prevent gang wars by forcing negotiation.
Right.
But if talks failed, they'd step in and eliminate the troublemakers, the leadership causing problems, and then maybe help install new bosses who were more reasonable from the commission's perspective.
So organizational maintenance through murder.
Pretty much. It wasn't personal vendetta. By being neutral, totally detached, they could act with this cold, unstoppable force, serving only the commission's will. It really transformed mob violence from these unpredictable cycles of revenge into, like, a tool of strategic governance for the underworld.
A terrifyingly efficient machine, it sounds like. But even machines break down sometimes. Let's talk about some of the high-stakes contracts. Like the Dutch Schultz hit in 35.
Yeah.
That turned out to be a huge miscalculation for the Syndicate, didn't it?
Oh, huge. The dilemma was massive. Schultz, he was kind of an independent guy, very volatile. He wanted to kill the prosecutor, Thomas Dewey, who was really coming after him hard for tax evasion.
Dewey was a major threat.
Absolutely. But the commission flat out refused to sanction a hit on a high-profile prosecutor like Dewey. They were terrified of the blowback, the massive law enforcement crackdown it would trigger. That was a line they just wouldn't cross.
But Schultz wasn't taking no for an answer, right? He said he'd kill Dewey anyway.
Exactly. Which put the commission in an impossible spot. Schultz going rogue like that threatened everyone. So Lepke had to go back to the commission and basically get permission to take out Schultz instead to stop him from bringing the whole house down.
So they had to eliminate their own problem child.
Right. October 3rd, 1935. Mendy Weiss and Charles Workman trapped Schultz down to the Palace Chop House in Newark, New Jersey. Workman shot him in the bathroom. Amazingly, Schultz staggered out, asking for help. Lived for another 22 hours. Reportedly babbled about a hidden fortune right at the end. Kind of surreal.
And the fallout. Did killing Schultz make Dewey back off?
Not at all. Complete opposite. The Syndicate gambled wrong. Dewey didn't back off. He doubled down. He ramped up his investigations. And eventually, Lucky Luciano himself got convicted on forced prostitution charges and deported to Italy. The commission's initial fears about the heat, totally justified. It was a strategic disaster.
Wow. Okay, then there's that other really bizarre incident you hear about, the Plasterers Union blind date in 1939.
Oh, yeah. That one showcases their, let's call it twisted ingenuity. Two union guys, Sari Leroux and Antonio Siciliano, they'd apparently botched a hit for Lepke and gone into hiding. Murder, Inc. needed a clever way to lure them out, catch them off guard.
So what was the plan?
Well, this is where it gets really weird. Happy Maywan, remember, the miserable guy nicknamed Happy, he was apparently deemed the most feminine looking of the crew.
Wait, seriously?
Seriously. He disguised himself. White blouse, blue skirt, heels, fur wrap, heavy lipstick. Works. He shows up for a supposed blind date. Siciliano, all excited, opens the door.
Oh, no.
And Maywan shoots him. Then Frank Abendando went in and killed Lepro while he was asleep.
Just brutal. But the public reaction was strange, wasn't it?
That's the fascinating part. There was outrage, yeah, but not really about the double murder. The big outcry was because one of the hitmen also shot Siciliano's bulldog.
You're kidding. The dog.
The dog. Even other mobsters were apparently appalled. It just shows this weird, warped sense of morality they were operating in. Killing people? Business? Killing a dog? That crossed a line for some. Wild.
Absolutely wild. Okay, so this level of brutality, this professionalism, it couldn't last forever. The cracks started showing. Lepke getting paranoid because Dewey was still after him relentlessly.
Yeah.
You made a bad call, right?
Yeah, that paranoia was his undoing. He started ordering hits on anyone he thought might be a potential witness, including a seemingly minor figure, a candy store owner named Joseph Rosen. That turned out to be a fatal mistake.
How so?
Because that paranoia, those internal purges, they ultimately led to the downfall. Facing the electric chair himself for a different murder, Kid Twist, Rulus decided to break omerta, the code of silence.
The canary sings.
Exactly. He became an informant, gave incredibly detailed testimony against Lepke, against other Murder Inc. guys. He just blew the whole case wide open for the prosecutors, William O'Dwyer and Burton Turkis. Rulus talking was the crack in the dam.
And once he started talking, others followed. And arrests piled up.
Yeah, his testimony, corroborated by other informants who flipped, led to this cascade of arrests and really high-profile trials. The machine started to come apart. Maney and Abendando, convicted for killing George Rudnick. Executed 1942, Strauss and Goldstein. Convicted for the Irving Feinstein murder. That was Strauss getting revenge because Feinstein bit his finger during a struggle.
Ouch. Revenge it.
Yeah. They were executed in 1941. Strauss apparently tried an insanity plea, grew a beard, mumbled, chewed on a leather briefcase in court. Didn't work.
Wow. And Lepke, the guy at the top.
Most significantly, yes. Lepke, along with Weiss and Capone, were convicted for that Joseph Rosen murder Lepke had ordered out of paranoia. All three executed in 1944, and Lepke became the only major syndicate leader, the only commission member ever to be executed in the electric chair. A huge symbolic blow from the authorities.
But Rulus himself, the canary, he didn't get to enjoy his freedom, did he?
Yeah.
His story has a very suspicious ending.
It's not at all. November 1941, he's under police protection in the Half Moon Hotel on Coney Island, supposedly about to testify against Anastasia himself, and he fell from a 6-story window.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the official story was he tried to make a rope out of bedsheets to escape, slipped, while 5 police guards were conveniently asleep in the next room.
How convenient.
Extremely. Almost everyone believes he was pushed, probably for a massive bribe, maybe $100,000 paid to the guards by someone like Frank Costello. The mob silencing the main witness against Anastasia.
And that worked. It saved Anastasia.
Pretty much. Rulus's death cut off the main case against him. So Albert Anastasia, now widely known as the Mad Hatter, because he was getting even more erratic and ruthless, he kept climbing the ladder.
Yeah.
Eventually became boss of the Mangano family, which later became the Gambino crime family.
Until his own famous end.
Until his own very violent, very public end in 1957. Gunned down in a barbershop chair. A brutal end fitting a brutal life.
So when the dust settled, Murder Incorporated was blamed for, what, hundreds of murders? Maybe up to 1,000?
Estimates vary, but yeah, somewhere between 400 and 1,000 is the usual range, a staggering number.
Yet, despite that body count, despite all the shocking details that came out, only 7 members actually went to the electric chair.
That's right, just 7. And the syndicate itself, they moved fast to distance themselves, disavowed Murder Inc., completely, basically tried to erase it from their history to avoid any more heat or association.
So, wrapping this up, Murder Incorporated, born out of this desire to bring some twisted kind of order to mob violence. And it really did transform contract killing into this chillingly efficient, compartmentalized business.
Yeah, absolutely. They were the muscle for the National Crime Syndicate for about a decade, enforcing its will, brutally shaping the American underworld.
But here's a final thought, something provocative maybe. What stands out to you as the most surprising part of their whole business model? Think about it. Murder Incorporated was actually created to reduce the chaos, the constant bloodshed of gang wars by centralizing the violence.
Right, to control it.
So by making murder this professional, detached business, instead of just spontaneous acts of revenge, did this organization, despite its horrific legacy, inadvertently create a more, dare I say, stable and enduring form of organized crime? Did they lay down a chilling blueprint for criminal enterprises trying to avoid destroying themselves from within? It's a disturbing question, isn't it? How even the most awful innovations can have these long-lasting systemic effects. What do you think?